Mama, look at her. A whole dropout and she still cannot even clean a floor properly. This is why education matters, Mama. 7 years and the only certificate she has is a wet rag.
Do it again, properly this time. Adana, keep short, not one word from you.
Chioma is right. She has education. She understands these things better. Your sister, she's older than you? Yes. She never finished school. She just stayed in the village. She looks really old.
That's her business, who cares? Adana, always allow the educated one speak first. Chioma, speak. We are listening.
Yes, mother.
When their father died, there was only enough money for one daughter's school fees. Adana was 17. She put her own fees back in the tin box. She never went back to school. For 7 years, she starved herself, worked herself to the bone, and sent a man who loved her away, all so her sister could graduate. Her mother never once said thank you. Her sister said, "It is what it is. What she built in silence will break you." The day they buried Obiora Nwachukwu, the harmattan blew dry and mean across the compound, scattering red dust over the mourner's black clothes like it had somewhere more important to be. His wife, Ngozi, wept loudly, the kind of weeping that needed an audience. His younger daughter, Chioma, 14 and soft-faced, pressed herself into her mother's side and cried with her. His elder daughter, Adana, 17, stood apart from both of them near the gate with dry eyes and a look on her face that frightened the older women. Not grief, calculation. She was already counting what was left. 3 days after the burial, Adana sat at the table with the small tin box her father had kept under the floorboards. Inside, 4,200 naira, a school fees receipt, a land document for the half-acre behind the house, and a photograph of himself as a young man smiling at something outside the frame. She arranged everything on the table and looked at it for a long time. Her mother appeared in the doorway.
What are you doing with that?
Counting what we have, Mama.
And?
Chioma's school fees are due at the end of the month. Mine are the same. There is only enough for one.
The silence that followed was the kind that already contained its answer.
Chioma cannot miss school. She is the one with the head for books.
Adana looked at her mother steadily.
I know.
She said nothing else. She folded the receipt, placed it back in the tin, and closed the lid. That was the moment. Not dramatic, not announced, when Adana stepped off the road her life had been traveling and onto a different one entirely. By the following week, she had already spoken to Mama Ezine to wash her family's clothes every Saturday. By the second week, she had arranged with 2 other households. By the end of the month, she had 4 regular customers, a standing order for firewood delivery to the pastor's compound, and a small plot of the backyard cleared and planted with pepper and ugu. Chioma left for school on a Monday morning with a new bag their father's brother had contributed and the 4,000 naira pressed into her palm by Adana.
Adana, are you not coming back to school?
Not this term.
Next term.
Go.
Pulling on her work boots. The village had a way of watching without appearing to watch. By the second month, people had noticed the elder Nwachukwu girl, up before sunrise, back after dark, hands rough and cracked by the time she was 18. She sold pepper soup on Friday nights near the motor park. She plaited hair. She carried water for the women too old to go to the borehole themselves. She did it all quietly, without complaint, without performance. Old Mama Ogwefi, who had lived long enough to recognize a certain kind of suffering, stopped Adana one afternoon on the road to the market.
You are killing yourself, my daughter.
I am not dying, Mama. I am walking.
Your sister, does she know what you are doing to feed her education?
She knows I love her. That is enough.
Mama looked at her for a long moment, then pressed a small bundle of kola nut into her hand, the way old women give blessings they didn't know how to say aloud. Chioma came home for Christmas holiday with good grades and city dust on her slippers. She was louder now, full of things she had seen and learnt, and the house bent itself around her presence the way it always had.
Look at my daughter, first in her class.
Second, Mama, but I will be first by Easter.
Their mother laughed the full laugh, the one she kept for Chioma. Adana came in from the backyard carrying a pot, still in her farm clothes. Her hands were stained with soil. She set the pot down and started to serve the food without being asked.
Adana, come and hear what happened at school.
She told the story with her hands and her whole body. It was a good story. Adana listened and smiled in all the right places.
That is good, Chioma. You are doing well. You should come back to school. Surely by now things have settled. Don't disturb your sister. Adana is fine where she is.
It was said casually, a sentence about weather. Adana kept stirring the soup. That was the first time she understood that her mother did not intend for things to change. In January, a man from the next compound, Ikena, 26, who had just returned from apprenticeship in Onitsha, began stopping near the pepper soup stand on Friday nights longer than it took to eat. He was decent. He was respectful. He looked at Adana like she was a person worth looking at. After 3 Fridays, he found a reason to speak.
You wake up very early.
There is a lot to do.
I have been watching. I have noticed. You work harder than anyone in this village.
She looked at him then, really looked. He was not bad. He was in fact the kind of man she might have hoped for in a different version of her life.
My mother is not receiving visitors this season. She is still grieving.
I can wait.
She said it gently, so gently it almost didn't sound like closing a door, but it was. She had done the arithmetic already. A husband meant her own household. Her own household meant nobody left to pay Chioma's second-year fees, her third year, her final year. Ikena waited 2 more Fridays before he stopped coming. Adana watched the space he left and filled it with more work. By the time Chioma began her second year at university, Adana had stopped thinking of her life as sacrifice. Sacrifice implied loss. She had decided instead to think of it as a gift she was giving, freely, completely, without invoice. This, she would later understand, was her first great mistake. Not the giving, the belief that those who receive freely giving gifts remember the hand that gave them. Chioma graduated on a Thursday in July, and by Friday, the whole village knew. Ngozi tied her best George wrapper and walked to the market with her chin raised like she had personally written the degree. She bought palm wine for the men who gathered under the Udala tree and small chops for the women who came to congratulate her. She told the story of Chioma's results 3 times, each telling slightly more impressive than the last.
Adana heard the celebrations from the backyard where she was washing a neighbor's bed sheets. She wrung the water from the fabric, hung it on the line, and went back inside to start the evening meal. Nobody called her to come and celebrate. She set the pot on the fire anyway. Chioma arrived home 2 weeks later with a box of belongings, a certificate in a cardboard tube, and the particular energy of someone who has just discovered they are better than where they came from. She was not unkind, not yet. She hugged Adana at the door and brought out a small wrapped gift from her bag, a hand cream, the expensive kind that smelled like shea and something foreign.
For your hands. I noticed last Christmas they were getting rough.
She said it warmly, she meant it warmly, but Adana heard the other thing inside it. The noticing, the categorizing, the quiet measurement of distance between them. She accepted the cream and thanked her sister and placed it on the shelf, where it stayed unopened for months. By September, Chioma had a job, an office in Enugu, a logistics company that needed someone with her qualifications. The salary was real money, city money, and it arrived in her account on the last day of every month like a kept promise. She sent some home. Not much, but enough that Ngozi could stop asking Adana for contributions toward the household and start asking Chioma instead. This shift happened gradually and then completely, the way water finds a new path after a stone is moved. Adana noticed. She said nothing. She redirected the money she had been giving the household toward repairing the roof that had been leaking since the year after her father died. She did it without announcement. When the work was done, Ngozi looked at the new zinc and said, "Chioma has been so generous since she got that job." Adana picked up her basket and went to the market. The family meeting was called in December. Ngozi's brother, Uncle Emeka, had come from Aoka with a land dispute that needed family agreement, a small portion of their late father's property that a neighbor was trying to claim. He gathered the family in the main room. Himself, Ngozi, Chioma, Adana, and 2 cousins who had driven in from Newi. They sat. Emeka laid out the problem. The neighbor had filed a petition. They needed to respond with a unified position before the new year.
So, what do we want to do?
Chioma spoke first, confidently, citing something she had read about land tenure. The cousins listened. Emeka nodded. Ngozi looked at her daughter the way you look at something you made and cannot believe you made. Then Adana spoke.
The petition will not hold. Papa registered that land in 1987. I have the document. The neighbor only built his fence in 2019. We have photographs from before that time.
Are you certain?
We bring both to the council and the case closes before it opens.
A bold move, Adana. It could work.
What if they question the evidence? We have the witnesses. We are ready.
A small silence. Then Chioma laughed, short, reflexive, the kind of laugh that escapes before manners can catch it.
Adana, we are talking about a legal process. This is not just showing photographs to the council elders. The council elders are exactly who will decide this. That is how it works here. That is how it used to work. Things have changed.
Let us hear all sides.
Chioma is right. She has education. She understands these things better.
It was said simply, without cruelty, which almost made it worse. A statement of fact, the way you'd say the sky is grey or the well is dry. Adana sat back in her chair. She did not argue. She did not raise her voice. She folded her hands in her lap and looked at the window and listened to the rest of the meeting continue without her. Her idea floating unacknowledged in the room like smoke nobody wanted to name. In the end, they hired a lawyer from Aoka who charged 40,000 naira, reviewed the case, and told them to bring the land registration document and any photographs they had before the fence was built. Exactly what Adana had said, 40,000 naira earlier. Nobody mentioned it. Chioma visited less as the months passed, but when she came with things. Bags of rice, body lotion, a small generator for the house that made Ngozi weep with gratitude. Each arrival was an occasion. Each departure was mourned. Adana was always there. That was the problem with always being there. You became furniture, necessary, unnoticed, unremarkable. At Easter, Chioma brought a friend from Enugu, a colleague, a woman called Adeaze who wore her nails long and spoke Igbo with a city accent. Adana came in from the farm while they were sitting in the parlor and Chioma made introductions.
That is my elder sister.
Just that. Not her name, not anything she had done or was, just a position in a family hierarchy, as if Adana were a piece of furniture being pointed out to a guest. Adeaze smiled politely and returned to her conversation. Later that evening, Adana overheard them in the kitchen, voices low but not low enough.
Your sister? She is older than you?
Yes, she never finished school. She just stayed in the village.
Ah, that is sad.
It is what it is.
Adana stood outside the kitchen door for a moment, then she went to the backyard, sat on the low stool near the firewood pile and stayed there until the sky went fully dark. It is what it is. 7 years. 7 years of 4 a.m. mornings and cracked hands, and a man she had sent away, and a school she had abandoned, and a life she had folded up and put in a box so that Chioma could stand in that kitchen and say, it is what it is. She did not cry. The kind of pain she was feeling had moved past the place where tears could reach it.
The last night happened on a Wednesday in November. Ordinary in every way except that it was the last. Adana had made egusi soup. She had pounded the yam herself. The table was set. They were eating, the three of them, when Ngozi began talking about a plot of land a family friend was selling, a possible investment, something to consider. Adana had a thought. She opened her mouth.
Adana, let Chioma speak. She understands business.
Adana closed her mouth. She finished her food. She washed the plates. She went to her room and sat on the edge of her bed in the dark. She had been invisible before. Hunger, exhaustion, loneliness. She had metabolized all of it. But this was different. This was her mother, in her father's house, at a table that existed because she had kept it standing, telling her to be quiet. She sat in the dark for a long time. Then she got up, pulled her old travel bag from under the bed, and began, slowly, quietly, without drama, to pack. She was gone before the cockerel crowed. The room she left behind was neat, bed made, floor swept, the hand cream Chioma had given her still sitting on the shelf unopened. The only things missing were her travel bag, her father's photograph, and the small tin box with the land document inside. She took nothing that wasn't hers. She left nothing that needed explanation. Ngozi discovered it at 6:30 when she went to call Adana for morning prayers. She stood in the doorway of the empty room for a long moment. Then she went to the kitchen, made her tea, and sat down. She did not raise an alarm, not immediately. Perhaps some part of her had been expecting it. Chioma called at 8 o'clock, her regular morning check-in.
Your sister has gone. Gone where? I don't know. She packed a bag in the night and left.
Did something happen?
Nothing happened.
You know how Adana is. She has always been too sensitive. Should I come home? For what? She will come back when she is tired of wherever she thinks she is going.
She said it with the confidence of a woman who had never imagined being wrong about this. She finished her tea and went about her morning. By midday, the neighbors knew. Mama Ezine, who had employed Adana's washing hands for 9 years, had the news and came immediately to the compound, wrapper still untied from her afternoon rest.
When did she leave? Last night, it seems. And you are sitting here. You are not looking for her.
She's a grown woman. She left on her own legs. That girl has been holding this family with her 2 bare hands since her father died. If she has left, it is because something broke inside her. You should be afraid.
She left because Chioma has done well and she's jealous. Simple.
Mama Ezine stood in the compound for a moment longer, looking at Ngozi with an expression that was not quite pity and not quite contempt, but lived in the territory between them. Then she tied her wrapper tighter and walked back to her own house without another word. Chioma came home that weekend, not out of worry. She told herself it was to check on her mother, which was mostly true. She stood in Adana's room for a while, looking at the neat bed and the unopened hand cream. Something moved in her chest, brief and uncomfortable, and she pushed it down before it could form itself into anything she would have to examine.
She didn't even leave a note. That is Adana. Always dramatic. Leaving without a word is not dramatic, Mama. It's the opposite. Don't start feeling sorry for her. She made her choice.
Chioma picked up the hand cream from the shelf and held it. Unopened, she set it back down. She did not bring up Adana again that weekend. Neither did her mother. By Sunday evening, they were talking about other things. Chioma's promotion prospects, a cousin's upcoming wedding, the price of tomatoes. The village moved on the way villages do. With noise, then with silence, then with forgetting. Nobody searched for Adana, not truly. Chioma made one phone call to a distant cousin in Onitsha. Have you seen her? And when the answer was no, she noted it and moved forward. Ngozi asked around the market once, perfunctorily, in the way you ask about a missing item you've already decided to replace. 3 weeks after Adana's departure, Ngozi repurposed her room, a storage space, then eventually a place for Chioma to sleep when she visited. The bed was the same, the shelf was cleared.
Only Mama Gwefi, old and sharp-eyed, paused when she passed the compound and noticed the changed window curtain. She said nothing to anyone, but she began to pray quietly for Adana, the kind of prayers reserved for people the world has swallowed.
3 years passed. Chioma was promoted. She moved into a better apartment in Enugu, 2 bedrooms with a small balcony she sent pictures of to their mother. Ngozi visited twice and came back both times talking about the tiles in the bathroom and the view from the sitting room window. At Christmas, Chioma sent money and a new television, and everyone gathered in the compound to watch Ngozi receive it like a queen. Nobody said Adana's name at Christmas. Adana's absence had been reclassified, first as stubbornness, then as failure, then finally as simply the way things were. The story the family told was clean. The younger sister had worked hard and succeeded. The elder sister had lacked ambition. What can you do? But Mama Ezine remembered. She remembered the cracked hands and the 4 a.m. firewood and the Friday pepper soup and the school fees pressed into a younger sister's palm. She remembered and she kept quiet because nobody had asked her and because some truths, spoken into the wrong silence, only make the speaker look bitter. In the 4th year, a trader from the village returned from Aba with a story. He had been at a business gathering, suppliers, distributors, small manufacturers, and he had seen a woman there who looked familiar. Composed, well-dressed, speaking to men twice her age with the quiet authority of someone who had nothing left to prove. He had not approached her, but he had asked around. The name people gave him was not one he expected. He came back to the village and mentioned it once to his wife in passing. His wife told Mama Ezine. Mama Ezine sat with the information for 3 days before she told anyone else. When she finally spoke, she chose her audience carefully. Not Ngozi, not yet. She told it to the women at the borehole in a low voice, the way you tell something true that sounds impossible.
They say Obiora's eldest daughter is doing very well for herself in the city. They say she has a business.
The women murmured.
Which Adana? The one who left. The one who was pushed.
Ngozi heard it 4th or 5th hand, diluted by the time it reached her. Easy enough to dismiss.
So people like to talk. They see a woman doing small business and they exaggerate.
Chioma, when her mother called to relay the rumor, laughed.
Adana, a businesswoman? Mama, please.
And that was that. They filed it under village gossip and left it there. But the rumor did not die. It returned. Different mouths, same story. A contract here, a warehouse there, workers, suppliers, a woman who had arrived with nothing and built something nobody had expected. Still, Ngozi and Chioma did not look. Pride is a door that only opens from the inside, and neither of them had yet been desperate enough to knock. That would come. It always comes. On a Tuesday in the rainy season, in the middle of a phone call with a doctor whose voice held no comfort, Ngozi's hand began to tremble. The diagnosis was not new. They had known something was wrong for weeks. But the figure the doctor quoted for surgery was the kind of number that drains the color from a room. She called Chioma. Chioma went silent for a long moment.
How much? It's very bad, my child.
How much? Ngozi told her. Another silence, longer this time. Outside, the rain was beginning, the slow, heavy kind that does not stop easily. Ngozi stood by the window and listened to her daughter breathe on the other end of the line and felt for the first time the specific terror of needing help and having nowhere sufficient to turn. The name neither of them had said in 4 years moved through the room like a draft under a closed door. Neither of them spoke it yet, but it was there. They tried everything first. Chioma emptied her savings account on a Wednesday, and it was not enough. She borrowed from 2 colleagues and a cousin in Lagos, and it was not enough. Ngozi sold her late husband's radio, her good set of china, and the gold earring she had worn on her wedding day. Still not enough. They wrote to the church welfare committee. They called relatives in Owerri, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt. They got sympathy and small amounts and prayers. The surgery date was 5 weeks away and they were still short by more than half. It was during a conversation outside the hospital, Chioma on the phone, voice fraying at the edges, that a man waiting nearby turned and looked at her.
Excuse me, I don't mean to intrude, but I heard you mention Nkweli village.
Yes, that is where we are from.
I know a woman from that village. She runs a distribution business here in Onitsha, fabric and provisions. Very successful. I've done business with her 3 times.
What is her name?
He told her. She stood very still for a moment. Then she thanked him, hung up her call and sat down on the bench outside the hospital in the thin afternoon rain and did not move for a long time. She did not tell her mother immediately. She went home first and sat with it, the possibility, the shape of it, the humiliation contained inside it. Then the doctor called again about a deposit required before the surgery date could be held, and the choice stopped being a choice. Chioma, Mama.
Mama, I think I know where Adana is.
What?
People have been saying she's in Onitsha. I think it is true. After everything, you want to go and beg her? I want to go and find my sister. She left us.
Chioma looked at her mother for a long moment, the kind of look that had years of slow realization behind it.
Did she, Mama?
Ngozi did not answer. She looked back at her Bible and turned a page she did not read. They left for Onitsha the next morning. The address took 3 days to confirm. A business contact led to a supplier, the supplier to a woman in the Newi fabric market who knew the warehouse to a gate. It was a proper compound, not flashy, no excess, no announcement, but solid in the way things are solid when they are built with patience rather than luck. A painted gate, a small garden, 2 young men at the entrance who asked their names and their purpose with the calm authority of people who worked for someone worth protecting. When they gave their names, one of the men disappeared inside. They waited. Ngozi stood at the gate in her church blouse, the one she wore for important occasions, and looked at the compound and said nothing. Her hands were clasped in front of her. She had aged in ways that had nothing to do with years. The gate opened. Adana came out, wearing a plain blue kaftan, her hair wrapped simply. She had filled out, not in weight, but in the way a person fills out when they have finally had enough to eat and enough rest and enough peace. She looked like herself, but like a version of herself that had been given room to breathe. She stopped when she saw them. She did not smile. She did not frown. She simply looked at them with the steady eyes of someone who had rehearsed this moment in her mind so many times it had lost the power to ambush her.
Adana, Mama, come inside.
They sat in her parlor. Real chairs, a center rug, framed fabric art on the walls. Through the back window, they could see a storage yard where 2 workers were cataloging crates. A woman knocked, entered briefly, placed a tray of water and kola nut, and withdrew.
Chioma looked at everything with wide, quiet eyes. She had prepared a speech on the drive from the village. It had dissolved the moment she walked through the gate. Ngozi broke first, not gently. She collapsed, slid from the chair to her knees on the rug with the full weight of a woman who had run out of alternatives, and also, somewhere underneath the desperation, out of the lies she had been telling herself.
My daughter, forgive your mother. I have wronged you. I was blind and foolish and I did not see you. I did not see you when you were standing right in front of me every day.
She was weeping the real kind now, not the performative grief from her husband's graveside, something older and deeper and uglier than that. Adana watched her mother weep on her floor and did not move to comfort her. Not yet, perhaps not ever, but she let her weep. Then Chioma spoke. Adana. Her voice was stripped of everything, the city accent, the confidence, the careful performance of success. What was left was just a girl, terrified.
Adana, I am sorry. I know that word is too small. I know there is nothing I can say that...
She stopped, started again.
You gave up everything for me. Your school, your future, a man who wanted to marry you. Yes, I knew about Ikena. Mama Ezin told me years later. You gave all of it away so I could have a life. And I stood in your mother's kitchen and told my friend you were nothing. I said it is what it is. Like you were a problem that had simply worked itself out.
And I stood in your mother's kitchen and told my friend you were nothing. I said it is what it is. Like you were a problem that had simply worked itself out.
The room was very quiet.
I don't deserve your forgiveness. I am not here to ask for it. I am here because our mother is dying and you are the only person strong enough to help her. Because you have always been the strongest person in this family. We just never told you.
Adana was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was even, not cold, not warm. The voice of a woman who had long finished crying about this.
I used to practice what I would say if I ever saw you again. For the first 2 years, what I practiced was a fight. After that, it was silence, just walking away again. Then one day I stopped practicing. I decided that whatever happened would simply happen. Get up, Mama. Sit in the chair. I was 17 years old when I put my school fees back in that tin box. I told myself it was love, and it was. And there was nobody, not one person in that house who looked at me and said, this is too much for her to carry alone. I starved myself 3 separate times so there would be money for your second year.
Did you know that? No, because I never told you. Because I believed that was what love meant, silent, total, leaving no room for yourself.
She paused.
And then you sat at Papa's table, the table I kept standing, and told me to be quiet. Both of you. As if I were a stranger who had wandered in.
Chioma's face had crumpled fully now. She was not trying to hold it together.
That is the part that broke me, not the hard work, the table.
She picked up a folder from the side table. She had known somehow, or prepared the way careful people prepare for all possibilities, that this day would eventually come. She placed a bank transfer document on the table.
I have already sent the full amount for the surgery to the hospital's account. I called this morning after your man spoke to mine at the gate yesterday and reported the visit. The surgery is confirmed. Mama will be taken care of.
Ngozi pressed her hands over her mouth. Chioma stared at the document.
Adana, why? After everything
Because I refused to become what you became. You forgot what I did for you and it made you cruel.
Her voice did not rise.
I will not forget what you did to me and let it make me the same.
I will not forget what you did to me and let it make me the same. That is not the woman I have built myself into.
She stood.
But I need you to hear me clearly. I am not your elder sister today in the way I was before, the one who absorbs everything and asks for nothing and can be silenced at the dinner table. That woman is gone. I paid for her to leave.
Some wounds do not heal, Chioma. They only become easier to carry, and only because you learn to put down the people who keep reopening them.
She walked to the parlor door and opened it.
Go home. Take care of Mama. Build something true with the life I helped you start.
She looked at them both. Her mother, her sister. The full weight of everything that had been and could not be undone. She stepped aside.
I wish you both well. I mean that. But this house is my peace. And my peace is the one thing I'll not sacrifice again. Adana, please.
Adana.
They left in the late afternoon. Ngozi walked through the gate slowly, one hand on Chioma's arm, looking back once. Adana was not watching from the window. She had already returned to her life, her workers, her yard, her quiet and earned existence. Chioma sat in the car and did not speak for the first hour of the drive. She held the folder with the transfer document in her lap and stared at the road and thought about a 17-year-old girl counting money in a tin box, making a decision that would cost her everything, asking nothing in return. The surgery was successful. Ngozi recovered slowly over 8 weeks. She was quieter afterward. The illness had burned something out of her, or perhaps returned something. She began visiting Adana's name in her prayers, not as a request, but as a reckoning. A name she said plainly, without decoration. Chioma sent a letter 3 months later. Not a phone call, a letter, handwritten, 4 pages. She did not ask for a relationship. She did not ask for anything. She only wrote down what she remembered in full, without softening it. Every sacrifice she had witnessed and pretended not to see. It was the most honest thing she had ever written. Adana received it, read it once, placed it in a drawer. She did not write back. Not yet, but she did not throw it away. And that is where the story rests. Not in reconciliation, not in ruin, but in the long, honest space between them, where real healing, if it comes at all, must grow on its own terms. The end. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you for staying with me. Do us well to hit the subscribe button so you never miss another beautiful tale like this. And right now, there's another lovely story waiting for you on your screen. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.